Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me is Omar Pozos, my co-host and husband. And today, what are we talking about, Omar? I'm putting it on you today.
What are we talking about? Well, I was making fun of you last night because you've you've started doing all of these different things. Like when we're going to bed, you have your castor oil pack and you're doing all of your routines and all this stuff. So I was making a little bit of fun of you. So I think today you wanted to share a little bit of what you're doing when it comes to lifestyle habits to better support people and their hormones. Am I on track?
Yeah. Well,
Nailed it.
Yeah, it's something that's been kind of on my mind a little bit when I was thinking about how, it's like sometimes when you zoom out and you reflect over like a bigger time span, like if you look over the course of a few years, it can kind of shock you when you're like, oh man, like I am doing a pretty good job here when you think of like all the habits that you've acquired that now just are like a part of your routine, a part of your life, and you don't really think that much about them. But like if I zoom out and I look at when I first started to really learn about hormone health and I first kind of was embarking on my own hormone healing journey, as I was learning about all these different like concepts and ideas of like ways to support your hormones, it was kind of overwhelming. And it was like, oh my gosh, like I could never do that. Like I can't live that kind of life. I can't be, doing this and that. And I don't have the time for that. That sounds hard. That sounds like too much energy, all the things. But like if you just focus on one habit at a time, over the course of time, those things truly do become habits. And then you look back one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a different person. Look at all the things that I just maintain now.
And I think you kind of nailed it. If you focus on one thing at a time, it becomes a lifestyle as opposed to you trying to overhaul your life in the next week or whatever. And then you're like, I can't keep up with, I don't know, whatever the next influencer out there tells me to do, right? So it's a matter of, what can you incorporate, what works best for you? And like you said, it doesn't have to all happen overnight. It's taking you, where are we now? Like 6-7 years to start really focusing on or doing all these things, would you say? More?
Yeah, well, I would say like 3 years ago is when I really started to learn about hormone health. So it's been probably like 2 or 3 years, really. But the reality... I was
a little off there.
Yeah, just a little off. But, I want to walk our listeners today through essentially what I would consider like 6 very simple lifestyle habits that you can start to work on implementing to essentially better support your hormone health. And so whether you maybe are currently working through a hormone healing journey, maybe you suspect that you might need to work through a hormone healing journey, or maybe you're just like an optimizer and you're just like, I don't want to end up down that road of needing to heal my hormones. I just want to make sure that they're in a good spot now. This is all going to be very applicable to you because these are truly just 6 simple lifestyle habits that you can incorporate anytime in your life, and they're going to support your hormone health.
Can I ask you a question before you dive into all that I think is going to really benefit a lot of the listeners? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of times when people are dealing with hormone issues or symptoms or imbalances or whatever you want to call it, they're always looking for like that magic supplement or that magic pill to help them, fix it. And then they can go back to doing the things that they have been doing and just keep taking that pill over and over when they feel shitty, for the lack of a better word, right? Yeah. Would you say that's accurate? And if so, like when you mentioned some of these things, because I know you mentioned it's a lifestyle, do you feel like it's something that people just have to continue to do over and over? Or is it like tell me your thoughts there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's why we're focusing on habits today, because that's what it comes down to is just the day-to-day, the way that you live your life is how your hormones are going to be kind of responding. Yeah. And yes, like supplements, of course, there's a time and a place for supplements, especially, if you kind of come into our program and you really want to optimize your hormone health fully, like there will be some different times where we might add in some very specific supplementation, like especially using like really quality medical grade supplementation, not just like the random supplements that like whatever influencer is pushing on Amazon that day. But like truly quality supplementation absolutely can be very beneficial. But just turning to supplements and turning there first isn't going to get you very far if you're not focusing on the lifestyle. That's why our coaching philosophy really does lead lifestyle first. We rarely ever just like put somebody on a supplement right away, because that's just going to be essentially like spending money for something that probably is going to kind of go right down the drain until we lay that foundation of starting to support your hormones more naturally with the way that you're living your life and treating your body, like you said. So these 6 habits I'm going to walk through are really just like, in my opinion, some of the most kind of simplest habits that you can start to work on. And you don't need to work on all 6 at once. And I'm going to give ton of examples of what it can look like to have these 6 habits in place, so that you can kind of like pick through this list and think about what sounds realistic for you to possibly start implementing, because you do not need to do everything on this list. I can tell you I do like 50% of the things in this list. Some of the things kind of like ebb and flow throughout my life based on like the season that I'm in. Some of these things I do very often. Some of these things I do kind of no matter what. Some things like I might do for a period of time, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to kind of switch to a different way of living out this habit. So let's kind of dive in here, roll on through these. So number 1, the first habit to support your hormone health that you can just kind of start to work on within your lifestyle is developing a proper morning routine. So what do I mean by that? A few examples of how to develop a morning routine that's really going to benefit your hormone health are to make sure that when you first wake up, you're getting some sun exposure into your eyes. Really, really important for your circadian rhythm first thing in the morning. I also encourage you to go for a walk first thing in the morning. If you can include that in your morning routine, extremely beneficial for hormone health. Some other things that you can do, some things that I do here and there, are to do essentially like an ice roll on your face can be really helpful, as well as gua sha can be really, really helpful, great for detoxification.
How often do you do that? The ice roll and the gua sha? What even is gua sha?
Gua sha is the thing that you see me do sometimes where it's like you're like rolling it against your face and
like the massage thing, like the stone thingy that you do?
See, like, like the little like jade stone that I have? That's gua sha.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, the roller that like I keep in the freezer, that's ice rolling.
Got it.
But both can really help with kind of opening up the lymphatic drainage pathways, essentially.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
I always thought you were just a weirdo, but it makes sense.
Yeah, like you'll see a lot of girls do like the ice roller when they're like hungover because it feels good to have the ice on your face.
I've done that when I'm hungover.
But it really does benefit you when you think about like the way that it works. When you're hungover, you're going to look puffier in your face because you have a lot of that like lymph fluid that's stuck there. You're not detoxing and draining very well. Like when your body's focused on detoxing alcohol because it's a poison essentially, it's not going to be doing the rest of the detoxification that it should be doing normally. So you're going to look puffier. So doing that can help move that through.
Got it.
However, doing that on just like a normal daily, weekly, as often as you want to kind of basis can be really beneficial for your hormone health as well, because you're helping your whole body detox, which is super, super important.
Just moving everything through.
Exactly. Some other things that you can add to your morning routine that can be very, very beneficial are some cold therapy. So like a cold plunge or cold showers is more accessible for a lot of people.
How many minutes do you do in the cold plunge, Vanessa?
Depends on the temperature, but
you can brag. I mean, she's a weirdo.
I do like 10 minutes normally.
At what temperature?
Like 38, 39.
You're a psycho.
I don't know why. My body doesn't mind being in there for a long time, and that's just kind of where I feel my best.
I think I've taken pictures of you in the plunge, like reading, and I'm like, are you alive right now? Like people are like, what is wrong with her? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, but no, I really like cold plunging. It's been something I've really enjoyed kind of adding into our routines, and we do that a few times a week. So that's definitely something that you can insert into a morning routine because it very much is helpful for waking you up and really helping you bring some energy into your mornings if that's something that you struggle with for sure. A big one is a nutrient-dense breakfast. So making sure that you are giving your body plenty of vitamins and minerals within your breakfast. A easy way to do that is just to have a smoothie in the morning because you can pile in a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, like sneak a lot of things in there to really start your morning off, start your day off with a lot of really, really good nutrients for your body. Another thing that I encourage pretty much everybody, like I would really encourage you to aim for this as part of your morning routine because it's so simple and accessible, but can make a huge difference. It's drinking a lot of water when you wake up, and including electrolytes, and or just you can essentially make your own like electrolyte drink by just doing water, some quality sea salt, and like a squeeze of lemon can be really beneficial. Personally, when it comes to electrolytes, we like to use LMNT. It's honestly just
if they want to sponsor us, please do.
Yeah, we're not sponsored. We don't have any kind of like discount code to give you. I'm sure we could get one. We just don't really care to do that stuff. But just genuinely, it's something that we really enjoy. So if you need a brand recommendation, that would be my go-to for electrolytes.
And those are probably the better tasting ones that I've ever had. So
yeah, no, they're great. Really, really enjoy it. And then on that list, like the last one I would include is No or minimal caffeine within 90 minutes of waking up. This one can be painful for people at first if they're used to that, if they're like, I just wake up and have my coffee right away. But if you can work your way to that over the course of time, I promise you, this is an example of something where it's like, I used to be that person where like, as soon as I crawled out of bed, like instinct was to go straight to the coffee maker. That was just like how I lived my life. Nowadays, I often forget to have coffee, and it might be like a little while after breakfast and I'm like, I haven't had any coffee yet today, and like that sounds pretty good, let me make some. And that's kind of what we want to get to when it comes to supporting our hormone health, is to not need it, but to be able to have it and not have it negatively affect you. So those are some examples of how you can develop a proper morning routine that supports your hormone health. So I would encourage you to think about what are some things within that list that maybe you could start to work on. Maybe just pick one and kind of go from there. Number 2 is a proper bedtime routine. So kind of on the flip side, we talked about a morning routine, also want to work on a bedtime routine. And if one or the other is easier for you to implement, then I would encourage you just to focus on one, because even having a better morning routine is going to help you over time develop a better bedtime routine, and vice versa. So whichever one feels more accessible for you, start there. But some ways that you can work on developing that proper bedtime routine that really does support your hormone health: no screens 60 to 90 minutes before bed.
Wow.
This is one that I have to include this in here, but this is probably the one I personally struggle with the most. Just, it's hard when like we often work until 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then, I'm not so much on this, but, one of us here, I'm not going to name names, does like to then scroll Instagram Reels for another hour or so. And I personally like to use my Kindle, which technically does fall under screen time, but
I was just going to ask, do you think a Kindle is considered screen time?
Yeah, well, it depends who you're asking, but
I'm asking you.
Then I'm going to say no. I turn the dimness at least as low as possible, but in a perfect world, probably would use a paper book instead of a Kindle at night before going to bed, just because you don't want all that light in your eyes. It does affect essentially your circadian rhythm. But that's the first one. Just getting that one out of the way there. Not saying we're perfect with all of these. But the second one here on my list that can actually really help if you are like me and you're not great about the first one on the list, this one can really benefit you, is to wear blue light blocking glasses at night. That can really, really help if you are prone to some screen time. It can be very beneficial. At night, I also encourage like a nice hot shower before bed, and before even taking that shower, dry brush. Dry brushing is something that it's one of those things that I don't do like every single night, but like I'll do it here and there, and it really is.
You do it before you shower or after you shower?
I do it before, yeah.
Okay.
And it really, it truly like you feel more relaxed after you do it. Like
Really?
You can feel the difference on your nervous system.
Maybe I gotta steal your brush. Is that weird?
Yeah,
if I use your brush?
you can get your own brush.
Why is that weird?
Because I don't want like all of your like dead skin cells rubbing onto mine.
Babe, that's love. That's what people do.
Yeah. No, you can buy your own
all right.
brush.
Well, I gotta try it first to see if I like it. Just a little bit.
You can just get a cheap one.
Okay.
But yeah, so dry brushing before your shower at night can be really, really great for winding down. Creating a calming environment. So like we've never really gotten that into essential oils, but I have clients and lots of different people and friends.
Our chiropractor does.
Yeah. So there's a lot of
helpful.
people who I've found really, really love using essential oils at night to help wind down. It's something I often recommend to clients as well. Within a calming environment, also just like something as simple as dimming the lighting. If you have a way to, whether it's like switching out your lamps for the type of lamps on your bedside table that you can like actually dim, like a sunset kind of lamp is what we use. That kind of thing is super, super beneficial, and it's so simple and easy. So it can really make a big difference in your just like experience of going to bed. I also encourage like something to help you wind down at night. So that could be some breath work, that could be some journaling, some meditation, some reading if that helps you wind down. Whatever kind of like you know yourself best. Whatever helps you calm down at night, helps like really calm your brain. Really lean into that. And then to help you wind down as well, some chamomile tea and or some magnesium. So either can really help with just like, again, helping you calm down at night and help you get prepared for that deep sleep. And then, just overall, when it comes to a proper bedtime routine, some way of kind of monitoring and tracking the quality of your sleep is really, really helpful, because you might be, tracking maybe the hours that you're in bed and kind of monitoring that and being like, oh, I'm doing great with my sleep, but yet you still don't feel very rested. If you get something like an Oura ring, so, I've worn an Oura ring for a few years now, and I still regularly look at the data that it collects for me, and it's super, super helpful to kind of collect this unbiased form of data of how I'm doing with my sleep and be able to see how different things are affecting me. So like Omar had kind of mentioned one at the beginning of this episode, where I just literally, like, as of a week or two ago, started playing with using castor oil liver packs. And I honestly, it's too soon to say if I feel like it's going to be like the miracle thing that people kind of say that it is, but essentially it's meant to help with detoxification overnight. And it's said to, like, if you consistently use it, you'll notice yourself being like less puffy, having better bowel movements. Like, it can really have a lot of benefits, which ultimately would be, the downstream benefits of improving your detoxification. But yeah, that's another thing that you can add into your bedtime routine as well. Number 3 on our list of habits for better hormone health. This one is all around, number 3 is truly just making sure that you are helping balance and stabilize your blood sugar levels. So what that can look like is making sure that you eat within 90 minutes of waking up. So kind of like earlier in our morning routine, we talked about not drinking coffee within 90 minutes of waking up. On the flip side, we actually want to eat breakfast within 90 minutes of waking up. That's going to be really helpful for blood sugar levels in the morning. Then from there, every 3 to 4 hours, we want to have a meal. So this one can be tough for some people who maybe are used to going for long periods of time without eating and then having really big meals, but that's not going to be the best way to eat to support your blood sugar levels. And if you have struggled with any level of weight loss resistance, super important to make sure that blood sugar is stable, as well as, of course, with hormone health. That's why it's on this list. So unless you already feel incredible, unless you already love the way your body is, I really, really recommend that you work on having a little bit more of like the smaller, more frequent meals every 3 to 4 hours, rather than waiting, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours even. Sometimes people like skipping lunch. And then having these gigantic meals, not going to be the best for you. So essentially
what you want to avoid is just the big crashes, the big dips kind of thing?
Yep, exactly.
Does that affect people too with like PCOS, like insulin resistance and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We want to work on, and we pretty much work on blood sugar with like a lot of our clients across the board. Right. At different levels, different ways. Some clients, we go as far as having them actually check their blood sugar in the morning and, after meals and different things, and like monitor it that way. Others, we just work on simple habits over the course of time. But, some of those habits that you can work on to essentially stabilize your blood sugar levels, like we talked about, eating within 90 minutes of waking up, eating every 3 to 4 hours. Some other very simple things you can do that might even be more accessible for you to start with is what we call ordered eating. So when we're looking at our food, if you, especially with like the popularity of bowls where you kind of have your like foods separated out, makes this even easier. Focus on eating your proteins first, then your vegetables, and then your starches. So if you have, let's say, a bowl of chicken and rice and vegetables, even though you might be like mixing the things in with your bites, I want you to really think about, like, you should absolutely have your chicken finished first, then your vegetables finished, and then your rice. That's going to be very, very helpful for making sure that you are supporting blood sugar levels, but also making sure that you are eating the things that are most important for you to be getting in first. And then it might help you not overeat on the thing that you might not need as much of, essentially.
Oh, that's a good tip. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes with you when you eat in 10 seconds the entire bowl
I'll
once
eat
anyway.
The first 2 seconds of my chicken and proteins, and then the remaining 8 seconds are going to be veggies and starches.
If you've seen those like reels that people are doing where it's
I think we should do it.
Me trying to eat the same speed that my boyfriend or my husband eats, I'm like, I refuse to try that because I will actually die.
No, you won't. You act like I eat super fast, but it's not that fast.
Okay, it's very fast. But yes, back to making sure that we are stabilizing blood sugar levels. Eating foods in relation to your cycle can be really helpful. So I won't get too into this because we could spend a lot of time on this. But if you go back to our cycle syncing episode, I talk about this a little bit. I'm also happy to send a full guide on cycle syncing if you want that. Just DM me, Cycle Syncing Guide. We'll get that over to you.
It's also in the Facebook group, isn't it? Isn't that the one that Ray just put out?
Oh, Ray just did
Coach Ray.
a training on that as well in the Facebook group. So if you're in there, you can find that. Also, drinking 100 ounces of water is really, really helpful for supporting blood sugar levels as well. So not just about what you eat. All right. Halfway through our list here. How you guys feeling? Are you feeling overwhelmed yet? Or are you feeling
My hormones are through the roof?
This is easy, because the goal is to find the habits that feel simple enough for you to start with and just slowly build over the course of time from there. This should not feel like scary and overwhelming and stressful, because that's also like stressing yourself out is not going to help support our hormones. So,
and I like your idea of literally picking one thing, because you've gone through so many things already that I can imagine people are like, oh my gosh, like I'm just doing everything wrong. I have to overhaul my life and, be like Vanessa kind of thing. But again, it's taking you a couple years to even
and
do
I don't even do
50,
everything on
40,
this list.
Yeah, like I do maybe 10% of this because you do 50% of it is just in my house. But you don't have to do everything all at once or everything, period. You can always switch back and forth like you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. But, speaking of stress, number 4, so our 4th habit that you can work on is incorporating a stress management practice every day for, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Like that's what I would like for you to work up to. So what does that actually mean? Stress management practice can look very different for different people. So essentially some ways you can go about this is a gratitude practice. So this can be as simple as writing out a list of the things you're grateful for. It could be something even more simple, like when you lay in bed at night, you list out very, very specifically, you list out in your head or maybe out loud with your partner, what are the things that you're grateful for. Very, very easy way to help reduce stress levels.
One thing that we do that I think has helped, and you tell me your thoughts, but we'll always ask each other, like, what was the best part of your day? And it helps us just think about our day, have a little bit of gratefulness into it, and then for me, it helps me fall asleep too.
Yeah, 100%, because that's what you're doing. You're bringing into your awareness the things that bring joy, that bring peace, that bring relaxation, as opposed to, letting yourself like stew on these things that might be creating more stress. So it's just a different way to shift your attention. Some other things you can do are some breath work, like some just breath focus. So like really just having these deep, slow, like really belly breaths and really just focusing on your breath. Doesn't even have to be controlling your breath, but just focusing on it for, 60 seconds or as long as you can, essentially.
Now I feel like I'm going to want to do this for the rest of the podcast. Just breathe.
Yeah, well, I hope that you are breathing for the rest of the podcast. But, another thing that we can do here is a body scan. So this one's really great if you are lying in bed at night. So like we could even say this could be part of your bedtime routine, but I would still put this under our stress management kind of daily practices. And that would be essentially like as you lay there, scan your body from toe all the way to head, and just you're going to focus on each piece of your body one at a time and really focus your attention on it. It really just brings you into this present moment, which is really, really helpful for reducing stress levels, because stress typically comes from either we're focusing on something in the past or we're focusing on something in the future. If we're in the present, we're rarely that stressed. Some other things we can do are guided imagery. So like we really have started to enjoy some like the sleep meditations, and there's a lot of guided imagery meditations as well, where they just like walk you through this like very soothing imagery.
What was the one we listened to the other day? Was like this guy describing a forest in like Mexico or something. He was like, the trees.
That was a cool one. Yeah, I liked that one. But yeah, just like it's all about just like conjuring up these really soothing images in your brain of, things that help you feel more relaxed and more focused. Of course, just like general mindfulness meditation. So that can be some guided meditations that can be kind of incorporating some of these things we already talked about, of like doing a body scan, focusing on your breath. Like that, it really is a way to practice mindfulness meditation. This also can be something as simple as like going for a nature walk, getting outside. If there's like a park nearby, you can walk in where it's grassy, where there's a lot of trees, where there's birds chirping. Like that is super, super helpful for reducing stress. And then probably like the most simple and accessible of all these things is calming music. Even for like us who maybe like to listen to more of like pump up, like,
what? Why are you looking at me?
more, what's the word I'm looking for? More exciting music as opposed to like relaxing music. if you can like incorporate into your day a little bit of time to just listen to like very calming sounds.
Something like, like let the body set the floor. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that. All right, number 5 is progressive training. So, we've talked about some like very truly like lifestyle habits up to this point, but number 5 really is something that I think a lot of people do get curious about is like, how should I train to best support my hormone health? Well, what I typically recommend and what I recommend people kind of work to and ultimately try to maintain to the best of their ability is lifting 3 to 4 times a week. Of course, like depending on where you're starting from, you're not going to jump into 3 to 4 times a week if you're currently, not lifting at all, or 1 to 2 times a week. Like we would always still start there. But at the end of the day, if you want to develop these lifestyle habits that are going to support your hormones, this is really the best way to do so is lifting 3 to 4 times a week and really even going as far as adjusting the intensity and load of your training over the course of your cycle. So again, not going to get too into the weeds on that one. Dive into our cycle syncing episodes to learn a little bit more about that. As far as cardio, if you really truly want to optimize and support your hormones, then I would suggest that the only forms of cardio we're doing are walking, ideally walking outside, or walking on an incline on a treadmill can be fine as long as we're not getting like too intense with it. But also like casual hikes, bike rides, like really like soothing activities. Rollerblading, honestly, yes.
Life.
As far as walking goes, I'd encourage you to really aim for 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day is going to be a good kind of range to shoot for to just maintain good hormone health overall. Now, last but certainly not least, number 6 on our list of habits that you can start to incorporate for better hormone health, whether you want to improve your hormone health or want to just optimize and maintain good hormone health. The 6th habit is just focusing and supporting your parasympathetic nervous system. So, we've talked about the nervous system many times in the past, but, for crash course, for those who are unfamiliar, your sympathetic nervous system is the other side of your nervous system where it's a little bit more fight or flight. And that's typically where people are spending the most of their time if they're dealing. So
sympathetic is the one that is fight or flight?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
No, sympathetic is your fight or flight. And then parasympathetic is your relax and digest. And that's what we want to spend more time in if we're trying to support our hormone health. I guarantee you, if you're listening to this episode, you are spending plenty of time in the sympathetic because you are probably working hard. Maybe you have a family that you're keeping up with. Maybe you're just like running around all over the place. Like if you at all ever feel stressed, you are in your sympathetic. If you're working out, if you're doing all these different activities, like that's very much sympathetic nervous system dominant. So we need to balance it by trying to incorporate more activities that shift you into that parasympathetic focus. So some examples are getting a massage can be very relaxing, very helpful for shifting.
Massage Envy just texted me yesterday to book a massage, so I need to do that.
There you go. A hot bath can be really nice and relaxing, especially add in some like essential oils. That can just be very, very soothing. Acupuncture, I have some clients who really enjoy acupuncture, and that can be very soothing and helpful for their nervous system. Going to a chiropractor, that's something that we've really gotten into in the last year, and that's been very, very helpful because a chiropractor, essentially, that's what they're doing is they're working on your nervous system. Meditation, of course, is very, very helpful. Some other like simple things, just getting outside more, being in the sun, even just like sitting outside and literally doing nothing. That is incredible for your nervous system. Like it might feel very weird to be like, I'm just going to go outside and do nothing.
You mean tanning, basically?
Well, yeah, that's one way to do it. 100%. Like very, very good for your nervous system. Sauna, cold plunge, like these types of temperature therapies are really, really good for your nervous system. Really, really great for shifting to that parasympathetic state. But even just like things that maybe bring you relaxation and joy. Doesn't bring me relaxation and joy, but like gardening.
I was going to ask that it was interesting that was on there because I don't think I've ever seen you garden.
Yeah, well, like it's especially this time of year when I go for walks, you'll see people like out and about gardening, and I have clients who are really into gardening, and it can be a very, very relaxing activity for a lot of people. Can't say I share that one, but I also haven't really tried, so can't really speak to that one there. But these are just some examples of ways that you can really better support your hormone health. So again, I want you to think about what are some things that feel very accessible for you, feel easy. Like I want you to go as far as to say like that feels easy for me to do. just focus on that. And as you get really consistent with that, then start to add the next thing that feels like, oh, well, this feels like the next level of easiness. Let me try this one. Okay, this one feels a little bit harder. Let me try this one, and just keep building over the course of time. And that's how you can truly create a lifestyle that fits you and your life. I don't want you to mold your lifestyle into mine or, another one of my clients or anything like this. I want you to find what's going to work for you. And if you need some guidance with that, of course, that's what my team is here for. That's what we really help each and every client with, is truly figuring out what is going to work for them and their lifestyle so they can maintain their results long term. Any questions, any other thoughts, Omar, before
Comments,
we
concerns?
wrap up here?
No. Well, what I was going to ask, and I think what a lot of people are going to ask or think is, Vanessa, you shared, I don't know, about 30 something things. If you had to pick like your top 3 things, what would you do? But I think you covered a lot of it with it has to work with you, your schedule, and what you're doing. But if you were, let's say, starting all over, where would you start?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, from this list, where we generally probably start right away with clients is the first 2 I listed, which is morning routine and bedtime routine. Because if you work on, and it doesn't have to be both at the same time, if you focus on just one of those 2, those are very much like anchor habits where once you get a really solid morning routine, the rest of your day starts to feel so much better from that.
That's a good point.
And if you have a really solid bedtime routine, you're going to get better sleep, and that's going to cause your next day to be even better. And that creates the foundation, that really just it's like tilling the soil. We're going back to gardening here.
Wow.
It's really
You're really planting the seeds in this episode.
It's about really getting the soil in a good spot to where then you can grow other habits from there.
Oh, I like that. That was a good answer.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very smart. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that this was beneficial for you. If it was, share this with a friend. That's how you can really help spread quality information to those who need it. So share this episode or share the podcast as a whole with a friend. Spread the good word. And make sure you hit subscribe if you aren't already, because we'll be back next week with another great episode.
Bye, you guys.